Hey guys, as you might have seen on my short, we bought this 1934 Ford Coupe from South Australia. So we've just gotten it back to the factory now. We had a bit of a play with it last week and I think the motor's seized up. So we've put a bit of transmission fluid and WD-40 in there to try and get it turned over, but it's no good. So the next point of call is get this over on the hoist, get the grill off, bonnet, whip the motor out. We've got another motor coming, so see if we can make one good one out of the two and get it running. We lowered the car back on the ground and started to pull the bonnet off. That consisted of two dome flathead screws with 3 8 nuts underneath. Once you get them off, you actually lift the back up and slide it back towards the windscreen and you can pull it off. It's a two-man job, that one. They're pretty heavy, the old Henry Ford steel. A bit thicker than today's stuff. Last night we got the grill, radiator and pretty much all the bolts undone on the engine, so it's pretty all ready to lift out. All we have to do is undo the 2 bolts on the front of the water pump, which are just down here. We've got 1 bolt here and then 1 bolt there, just on the water pumps. They just have like a donut style mount. Undo them 2 and then it should be ready to come out. It is a bit of a shame that this motor is no good, because being a Merc block, I don't know if you can see down there, but they're actually relieved. So that creates better flow when you put the high compression heads on. So we've got the new Flathead here. Oh, it's been rebuilt by Ford, so should be good to go. 1953.
It's brand new.
Yeah.
50 years ago.
The old man's just turning it over, so she's nice and free. So now we've just got to get that motor into that car.
Just got to make sure it's still brand new.
That's it. Now he's doing one anti-clockwise. Just make sure she's nice and free.
Yeah, make sure there's no valves or anything locked up.
Yep. We'll take it down, we'll degrease it all, pull the heads off, manifold, all the bullshit, pretty much everything. Give it a good clean and then get all the good bits out of this one, put it in that one, and away we go.
That's how you do it!
Sounds easy when you say it fast.
Yeah, it's really easy when you say it fast.
Getting it all cleaned down. It's come up pretty well actually, so now just got to whip the heads off, manifold, water pumps. I think we're going to try and put the old timing case cover on. It should go on as well, so we'll get that done now. Fuck, that was quick. How easy is that? This motor actually has adjustable tappets already. So normally they're just like a solid unit, but say these ones here have a bolt at the top, so they can be adjusted to get different tolerances between the valve here and the cam, which is below. Being a side valve, as opposed to an overhead valve, like most normal V8s are these days, this actually has the valves in the block, runs straight off these guides here that run off the cam. Whereas a late model V8 will have a push rod running off the cam up here onto a rocker, and then the valves are above the pistons. With what I was saying before about the relieving and the high compression heads, so these are aluminium aftermarket high compression heads, and these are the standard cast heads. They're 8RT, so they're like a truck head. See how these ones have a much larger combustion chamber? so that would lower the compression, whereas these have a smaller combustion chamber. There's not as much of a divot in here, and these are smaller, so that would then increase the compression, so you make it a higher compression engine. And they look sick as well, so that always helps, you know. We got the engine attached to the engine crane. We jacked it up. We had to bring it really high because the two water pumps that hang off the bottom of the front of the engines was actually wider than the headlights. So we had to jack it really high, and then we just sort of had to manipulate it a bit and get it in between the headlights and the front of the front guards without damaging anything. Next up, we mounted the engine stand mount to the flathead. It's a bit of a funny engine stand, this one, because it actually bolts onto the exhaust manifold flange, whereas on most engine stands they actually bolt around the back where the flywheel is, but the flatheads, that doesn't really suit. So this is one we went with. So we got the motor out of the 34. So I'll just show you the difference. This is a 99A block. So it actually has the built-in bell housing, whereas the one that's going in is a 8BA. So we need an adapter that goes on there, so it goes onto the 39 gearbox. Besides that, they're pretty well similar. See, this old motor here has the same, can't really see. It's got the adjustable lifters in there, same as the new motor we're putting in, but this one has a hot cam and a few other bits and pieces, but this one, we don't know what sort of cam's in it, so we're actually going to put that cam in this motor. I started off just by removing all the old distributor leads. Next up, I pulled the harmonic balance off. That came off quite easily. Then it was time to tackle the water pumps. They actually have 3 bolts up the top, 1 just below the pulley and 1 inside the bottom water outlet, which is normally rotten, so you got to watch out for that one. Both the bolts that are inside the bottom water outlets on the water pumps, they both snapped. Luckily, the head's fully snapped off, so it didn't really give us a lot of drama, and they still came off quite easily. Next up, I tackled the timing case cover. So there's about 4 or 5 half-inch bolts around there. You get them, and then it just literally just pops off. There's none coming up from the bottom, so it's pretty easy. Got the valve tool in there, levered the spring down, pulled the circlip, and this one actually took off like a fucking Shanghai. So make sure no one's on the outside of the motor when you're doing this. Don't do what I did and lever on the bottom of the spring. All the other valves were pretty well frozen solid, so we put some cuts in them so that we could get them to spin with the chisel, and then we got the chisel underneath and levered them up so we could get the tappets out, so we could get the cam out. So I've just been lapping all the valves in. I've got up to number 5, so you can see there, so when you lap them you put the paste in. Spin them up with this. I call this the campfire method. It's kind of similar to if you're stranded, how you would light a fire in the bush. It's got a nice seat on it now, so before it was like that and had a bit of rust and corrosion because it's been sitting for a while. So there's a new seat there, and the valve has a nice seat on it as well. So they match together now.
What about the new valve springs?
Yep, Dad's put the new valve springs on the valves, so ready to go now. It's going to be a race car. We've fitted the Iscadarian valve springs. We've got the adjustable lifters there, so we just need to set the tolerances on the lifters. The guides have like a little hole, so you need to get this tool so you can lock them out so that you can get this adjuster bolt to set the tolerances. So we went and got that yesterday, so we'll be able to... So I've just adjusted all the tappets. So we've adjusted them all to 12 thou. So you just got to get the feeler gauge in there. Now they're all ready to go. Guys, I've had a bit of a stuff up trying to fit an 8BA into an earlier style car because these are like a late 40s, early 50s style engine. That's a 30s car. The problem we're having is because this is an 8BA, we need to run this style of timing cover and distributor. But with restrictions on space with the front cross member, we need to run the original harmonic balancer, which would go this way. So about there. But as you can see, the belt will run through the distributor because this actually sits back about there. So the belt's going to run through the distributor. If we, on the older engine, where it sits back, they have the crab style distributor, so it can go around it, no worries. And then this harmonic balancer sits out too far. So it's all good for the distributor, but it's actually gonna foul out on the front cross member of the car. So what do? Might have to take the crank out of the old motor, crank and cam, change the cam bearings on this, so it's all matching so we can run the crab style distributor. If anyone's got any ideas on what we can do with this, hit us up in the comments. If not, like and subscribe please guys, and stay tuned for the next episode. Let's see what we do with this motor. Cheers.